Once, in a quiet village perched on the edge of a high plateau where the land seemed to lean toward the sky, there lived a boy who spent more time looking upward than ahead. His name mattered little, for everyone simply called him the boy, and he was known for standing at the cliffs at dawn and dusk, watching the slow rivers of clouds drift beneath the world like a second, hidden sea. The elders said those clouds were nothing more than mist and wind, but the boy believed otherwise. He believed they were a sea, vast, living, and full of paths no map had ever drawn. His father had been a shipbuilder long before the village roads replaced old trade routes, and though no water touched the plateau, the boy grew up among curved timbers, ropes, and sails folded like sleeping wings. His father used to tell him stories while sanding planks smooth, stories of ships that did not fear storms, of captains who followed the stars instead of the shore, and of journeys that began the moment one dared to believe they were possible. Then one winter, his father sailed away on a merchant caravan bound for distant cities and never returned, leaving behind only unfinished hulls and a silence that settled deep into the boy's chest. From that day on, the boy returned to the cliffs alone, imagining that somewhere beyond the clouds ships still traveled, and that one day, somehow, he would follow them. Years passed, and the boy grew taller, his hands roughened by work, his thoughts sharpened by longing. One evening, after a storm unlike any the village had known rolled across the plateau, he noticed something strange at the edge of the cliff, a shape half buried in mist, its outline unmistakable to anyone who had grown up among keels and masts. It was a ship. Not a wreck dragged up from some forgotten sea, but a complete vessel, resting gently as if the clouds themselves had lifted it there. Its hull shimmered faintly, as though carved from moonlight in old wood, and its sails, though furled, breathed softly with the wind. The boy approached with a mixture of fear and reverence, his heart pounding so loudly he was sure the clouds could hear it. When he placed his hand on the hull, it was warm, alive, and familiar, like touching something he had known in a dream. No one else in the village saw it. When he called out, his voice echoed back to him alone, and he understood that this ship had come for him, and only for him. That night, he returned with supplies, a lantern, and the old compass his father had left behind, its needle restless, never pointing north, but always trembling as if eager to move. As dawn broke, the boy climbed aboard, untied the ropes that seemed to have grown from the clouds themselves, and felt the deck shift beneath his feet. The sails unfurled without his touch, catching not wind, but something gentler and deeper, and the ship glided forward, slipping from the cliff and into the sea of clouds below. Fear surged through him, sharp and cold, but it was followed by wonder so vast it left him breathless. The clouds parted and flowed like waves, revealing valleys of light and shadow, towering columns of mist, and currents that glowed faintly, guiding the ship as surely as any tide. The boy learned quickly that this sea obeyed different rules. Storms rose not from anger, but from memory, and calm waters appeared where hope lingered. He passed islands made of solid cloud, where echoes of laughter drifted, and he saw shapes moving beneath the mist, other ships perhaps, or the dreams of travelers long gone. At times, the sea grew dark, heavy with clouds that pressed close, whispering doubts into his ears, reminding him of the village, of the safety he had left behind, of the fear of never returning. During those moments, the compass would spin wildly, and the ship would slow, as if waiting for him to choose whether to continue. Each time, the boy would steady his breath, remember his father's stories, and speak aloud the simple truth that carried him forward. He was not running away, but toward something. As days blurred into nights marked by unfamiliar stars, the boy encountered others upon the sea. There was an old woman steering a vessel woven from memories who told him she sailed to forget a grief too heavy for land, and a silent child drifting on a raft of paper boats, each one folded from a wish that had never come true. They traveled together for a time, sharing stories and silence, until their paths gently diverged, the sea opening for each as it pleased. Through them, the boy learned that the sea of clouds was not meant to be conquered or crossed quickly. It was meant to be listened to, understood, and respected. One night, as the ship sailed through a region where the clouds glowed like embers, the compass finally stilled, its needle pointing straight ahead. The air grew warm, and the boy felt a pull stronger than any current he had known. Ahead rose a horizon unlike any other, where the clouds thinned into light and the sky seemed to open into something vast and endless. As he approached, the ship slowed, the sails easing as if reluctant to go further. The boy understood then that this was not an end, but a crossing, and that beyond it lay a choice. He could continue forward, leaving behind everything he had been, or he could turn back, carrying with him what he had learned. He thought of his village, of the cliffs and the quiet mornings, of the shipbuilder's tools gathering dust, and of the boy he once was, staring into the clouds with unanswered questions. He also thought of the sea beneath him, of the voices he had heard, the paths he had followed, and the certainty that he was capable of more than he had ever believed. In that moment, the boy realized that the journey itself had already changed him, and that no matter which direction he chose, he would not be the same. With a steady hand, he turned the wheel not away from the light, but alongside it, setting a course that balanced forward motion with return. The ship responded at once, the sails filling, the deck humming softly, and together they sailed, not toward an ending, but into a future wide enough to hold both dreams and home. When the boy finally guided the ship back toward the plateau, the clouds lifted just enough for the village to appear below, small and familiar. He anchored the vessel at the cliff where it had first appeared, and as his feet touched solid ground, the ship faded gently into mist, leaving behind only the compass in his hand, now still at last. The villagers saw him return changed, quieter in some ways, stronger in others, and though he spoke little of where he had been, they noticed that the boy no longer stared at the clouds with longing alone, but with understanding. In time, he rebuilt his father's workshop, not to make ships for water, but to teach others how to listen to the wind, how to read the sky, and how to trust the journeys that call softly, patiently, waiting for those brave enough to answer. And sometimes, when the clouds drift just right and the air hums with possibility, those standing at the cliffs swear they can see the faint outline of a ship moving through the mist, crossing the sea of clouds, carrying with it the quiet promise that no dream is ever truly unreachable if one dares to begin the voyage. Thank you all for listening to the story. Please support me with a like and a channel subscription. Wishing you all happiness in life.